Hello, my name is Mike Ignatoski, the creator of the BlueLynx hockey spreadsheet, the spreadsheet that uses Excel programming to help you conveniently manage your tabletop hockey league project, including the standings, the schedule, but most of all, the player and team stats for your entire league. BlueLynx was created to help you get more enjoyment out of your tabletop hockey projects by giving you more time to play the games and look over the stats instead of painstakingly calculating them and entering them into a spreadsheet. Okay, in this video I want to talk about the schedule. It's got some, um, I guess, special features of its own, so I thought I should give it a little bit of time in the spotlight here to talk about a few different things. In this example, I'm going to be using a historical league season again. This is my 1971 league. But what I'm going to talk about is pretty generic. I think in any league, uh, these schedule features can apply, although sometimes in some varieties of leagues more than others. So let's take a closer look at what some of these schedule features are. Okay, well, one thing that might be obvious from looking at this example league, although this might not be a good example to follow because this example league I've not really kept anything consistent because I was trying to test features and demo features and make videos and all kinds of stuff. So it's definitely not the model to follow, but it's still helpful for this thing. And so the first thing I'll mention is this location column here. And if I hover on it, it kind of says this data field is optional and can be hidden using a button on this page. But if it's not blank, it'll get included in the game description when you load a game in the score sheet. So I was just doing some tests in here and putting in some locations. But right now, unfortunately, in the hockeyreference.com, when you copy the schedule data from there for a season, that you don't get the location of the game. It just says who's playing who and when. So I'm hoping to be able to work this, at least the primary or the main, the team's home stadium. It doesn't mean that's where they played all their games. Sometimes there's weird circumstances, but for the most part, I think it'd be good enough, and it'd be better than nothing. But anyway, so the point is, you can fill this in with whatever you want if you wanted to. If you care, it doesn't really affect any stats, obviously. But if you don't want the wasted space here, you can use this show hide location up here and just hide it and not worry about it. That's up to you. So that's the location button. The next thing I want to talk about on the schedule sheet here is the ability to kind of filter it. So this is a whole league, so it's got all kinds of teams in it. But if for some reason I want to look and see, either find a Buffalo Sabres game or to see how they're doing, or for whatever reason, I could use this green button here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to first select Buffalo. I think you have to pick the ID. I don't think it works on the name. Let me just try it. Yeah, it says you must select a team, and you have to select the team ID in the visitor or home columns. Okay, so it kind of can tell I don't have one picked there. So I can pick Buffalo here, or I can pick Buffalo over here. It doesn't matter. And then click this green button. And it asks me, do you want to just show Buffalo games? For right now, yeah, I do. So it'll kind of go through the entire schedule and hide all the other ones that aren't Buffalo. So I can now just see how Buffalo's doing. Yeah. Okay. So that's how that works. The next feature I want to mention, I'll mention this import completed because, in short, the simple answer is it doesn't work. But I'm hoping it will in the future, and it does already work in the Green Fox baseball score sheet. So I think it's promising that it will work. But what this allows you to do is it allows you to import completed games that somebody else played for your league. And a simple scenario would be I create this league. Let's say I did the 71 league, and I found, 10 of my closest friends that wanted to help me complete this project. So I would create this main primary league. Then I would, once I had all the rosters and everything else set, the rosters, the schedule, I'd send a copy to each of my 10 friends, and we'd all kind of figure out, okay, what what games each person is playing. So they'd play their games, and we'd have to. Well, anyway, yeah, we have to probably figure out some special how to deal with injuries. But anyway, once each person played their games, and nobody's supposed to play the same game, they'd send me their spreadsheets with all their saved in-game results, and I could use this to import those results into this one. So I'd import it from each of those 10, and I'd then have this main spreadsheet that would have all the completed games in it. And so then I could, once I had that, I would save it and then send it out to my 10 friends again and say, all right, guys, and here's the up-to-date cumulative stats and standings for our league, and play your next 10 games and then send them in. So that's the idea of this import complete. It's, I think it could be a good feature for either kind of a cooperative project in theory or a competitive league if you want to just each person play their own games independently. So that's the idea behind this import completed. Hopefully be in the next release or two I'll have that working. Another thing I should have probably already started with is this little table here where it talks about how many scheduled games are there, how many completed games, and how many played games. And an obvious question is, what's the difference between a completed game and a played game? And the answer, as you might guess, has to do with hovering on these cells and reading what it says. So completed, I wrote completed, aka scored games, includes two kinds of games. One, played or simulated games with saved stats, and scheduled games with a final score but no stats. And these games are denoted with an asterisk in front of their score. And this result will be included in the league standings but will not have any stats associated with it. And this is a feature that I'll say is new for me, and I say new because Green Fox, the baseball spreadsheet, does not have this feature yet, but I'm excited to maybe add it to that. But anyway, I think it was kind of inspired by a couple of users that wanted to do a team season replay, so which it makes a much more manageable project. But they wanted the standings to reflect the entire league, and a standard historical team season schedule in BlueLynx or Green Fox, um, wasn't really initially set up to do that. So the idea here is that even if you want to do a team season, you load the schedule or create your league for a league season, and then play only the games you want, which would mainly be your team that you're focusing on. But for the other games, you could incorporate them into your standings using this feature here with these asterisk scores. And you could think of it either as you could fill these in, I think, one of two ways. One is just use the historical or as played, and if you have a historical league in BlueLynx, it will show the historical score or as played score over here on the right. So you could use it if you want to, or maybe you want to have your own quick play workflow, so that you might have a special something where you roll these 11 dice, and depending on how they go, it'll tell you the final score of a game if you know who's playing, and you could write that in here. So it's flexible, but the point is it'll let you kind of play the whole season, some quote quick play, and some, if you want to call this full play with stats, it lets you kind of combine those into a single project, and that's what I think was attractive to some users. So that's what this means. So like this game here, let's just say I want to quick play this game, and I roll my 11 dice, and I say the Kings won 4-3. So to do it, I need to unlock my schedule. So I'll click the unlock button up here. It unlocks it. And now, if I hover on the score, it kind of tells me, you have to enter it this certain way, like star or asterisk visitor dash home. That's how all these scores are, visitor dash home. So I'm going to say Kings won 4-3. So I'm going to go here, type in my asterisk 4-3. Now, when I entered originally, I don't put the spaces in, but when I click this lock, it'll go in and add some spaces around this middle dash for, I'll say, for computational reasons. But anyway, and you could do a few games here. If I also wanted, let's do this next game and say I roll the dice and the Sabres won 3-0. Okay. So just for kind of confirmation, before I click anything here, I'm going to go to the standings. Look at this Buffalo. Look, right now they're 3-7-1. Yeah, they need some wins. So if I go over here, I'm going to give them one more win here against the Canadiens. So this is going to be, they beat the Canadiens 3-1. Okay, now I'm going to lock this. You'll see how it then mark these as completed. Mark these games as completed. Color coded the winners. So the Sabres. I put this in backwards, so they lost. I'll have to fix that. So I was reading this the wrong way over here. So it's, yeah, so this was Buffalo won this game. They lost these next two. So this is just telling me that I locked it and it handled the results of these played on or scored only games. So I'm going to fix this. So I'm going to unlock this again and put this in the other way around. 3-1. And now that I feel bad for them, I'm going to make them beat these Flyers too. 5-2. Okay. So now let's also look at up here where it says completed and played 37 and 25. When I lock this, it'll go recompute these numbers, and now I've got 38 and 25 because I didn't change any of the games with stats. I just changed these ones that were kind of scored only. Now if I go to my standings, I'm going to recompute these standings. And now they're 6 and 8 and got 13 points. Granted, they've played 15 games, so that just tells you kind of how messed up this demo league is. But anyway, that's an important thing I want to talk about because I think that's really a feature that has a lot of potential for different people's projects of how to, I'll say, smoothly, I don't know if that's a good word, but how to nicely mesh playing some games with your sim games and getting all the stats, and in other games with a quick play or using historical results to keep your standings for the entire league and kind of merge in or blend in your special project. So that's how you can use kind of either this historical score as well as entering these scores with or without asterisks to help you make your project, I guess, just the way you want it. The last couple tidbits on the schedule that I'll mention when I'm going to unhide the rest of these games so we can see all of them is that this sim game note. I think I mentioned in another video, but if you want to, these are the notes that were written in for just the games from the score sheet. But if you click this, it'll kind of word wrap this column nicer so you can actually read these little notes if you wanted to. So that's what that's about. And this is kind of, whoops, toggle. You have to kind of click out to toggle it back. So anyway, that's what this sim game notes is all about. Typically, you shouldn't need to mess with this update scheduled and completed games because when you try to lock it, it automatically will recompute this each time. So, at any rate, those are the highlights that I wanted to cover in the schedule. I'm trying to think what I'm. This game type. This is something else that is, well, I'll say it's new to BlueLynx, but in some ways it really isn't new because the feature isn't there yet. But I kind of designed it so that you could also have postseason games and regular season games in the same league and same schedule. There's no code that makes it work yet, but I'm hoping in the next few versions to add that. So if you want to have a season and then have some playoffs, that you could keep using the same schedule, put your playoff games in there, and then in the stats, it could uh, differentiate between playoff stats, and regular season stats, or maybe you could combine them if you want. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it yet, but I wanted to at least design that feature in there so that you could have playoff games along with your regular season and have it try to work. I'll say semi-intelligently with either one. So I think at least I could do the league leaders with each one, but you probably have to say how you wanted to compute your stats. When you do compute stats, whether you want to compute for regular season or playoffs, and so I haven't worked that out yet, but it's kind of, I just wanted to mention that it's something I'm working towards. So uh, hopefully it'll be useful to somebody. So anyway, that's gonna wrap up the um, my little extra tidbits on the schedule sheet. So um, oh, I guess I should. I can always think of something else. If in your quick play, you can actually add. You can say that it was a game in overtime or a shootout if you wanted to. So it does allow that. So you'd have to put in SO for shootout or OT for overtime here with your scored only score. So that will work. So okay, to finally wrap up this schedule, I guess need to complete this and say so. Yes, so completed games is basically scored games, whereas played games are only those with stats that you complete on your score sheet. So that's what these two different things mean. Everything that's spent is in played will be in completed, but not vice versa. Completes basically ones you played plus ones with the asterisk. The other thing that maybe you've already figured out, or we've kind of already talked about in other videos, is when you're adding a game to the schedule or working on something here with the schedule, you have to unlock it, and in doing so, let me just unlock this a second. It shows as unlocked. You're unable to load a game in the score sheet, any game, while the schedule is unlocked. If you try to, it'll say you can't do it. Like if I'm not sure if I even can. Let's go to the score sheet and say I'll try to unlock it. It says the score sheet's currently unlocked, so it can't be loaded in the score sheet. So you're out of luck. So that's something I want to mention here about the locked and unlocked. And when you're unlocked when you that's when you can add a score, or you theoretically could add a game to the bottom of the schedule if you wanted to. You know, um, typically in a historical league season, you're not going to do that, but in a custom league, that's what you're doing all the time. Is you're adding score, adding scheduled games, typically as you go. A lot of times you're not going to. You might have the schedule kind of figured out all ahead of time, but you might just have it entered in, you know, 1 week or one series, or like again, maybe you want to do a your custom league might have each day or each maybe twice a week you're going to have two home and homes every week, something like that. So you might just want to enter them one at a time, and then build it as you go. So that's what I wanted to say about the unlocked and the played games, and I believe that's pretty much everything I wanted to say. I think it's pretty obvious here that the ties are indicated in gray. The colors vary depending on the league type you have. I'll say, like, this is a league season, so every game the green's the winner, the red's the loser, and that's the same with a custom league. But if I had just a team season, let me see if I have. Well, I don't think I have one going right now in this one. But if I had a team season, then it'll always just highlight your team, whatever team that is. So if they lost, they'll be in red. If they win, they'll be in green. But every game will have your team highlighted on the schedule if it's a historical team season. So, okay, I think I'm actually done now talking about the schedule. Sorry for the run on. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful. And like Red Green says, keep your stick on the ice.